Today we're going to be building up 4 budget gaming PCs, and I'm in a bit of a rush here because I got to move some of this stuff and clearing out stuff at the Tech Yes studio. But if you guys are looking for ideas to build cheap gaming PCs, then hopefully this video will serve you well. Where the first one we had here was we picked this up. It's an i7 4790 and 16 gig of RAM and a motherboard. We got this with a water cooler as well for $100. So that's a very cheap bare bones combo. I have cleaned it up. It was extremely filthy, but we couple that in with, say, an RTX 3050 case, SSD, hard drive, power supply. We're now gaming for pretty cheap. Now we've also got this right here. This is an i7 3820 X79 motherboard. We picked this up. We actually got 2 of these combos for $70 each. So that's Aussie dollars, by the way. So that would make it around, say, 50 USD. And what I gotta do is add 16 gigabytes of RAM. I gotta add a cooler to this. And I'm also thinking about coupling with either an RTX 3050 or going on the used market, seeing what GPUs are cheap. Because again, we've got to put some PCs together. And then the 4th PC will just be another B85 combo where we picked up a motherboard and CPU for pretty cheap. So let's go hit the road, see what kind of GPU deals we can score, because kind of the rest of the components I have picked up in the past have scored some really good deals on, and we're gonna make some magic happen. Never pay full price for Windows 10 or 11 again. With today's video sponsor, SCD Keys, you can get activated for as little as $15 using that coupon, BFTYC. Links in the description below. So we just picked up 3 different graphics cards here. The first being a GTX 1070 Ti. We got this for 250 Aussie dollars. And they also threw in a Corsair 275 white case because they said they were upgrading their stuff. So that was a really good deal in my opinion. The next one we got was a 1660 Super. We picked this up for 300 Aussie dollars. And then the last deal was a 1060 3 gigabyte. We got this for 200. Now I'm thinking this is a little bit expensive, but the good thing about all 3 of these deals were they were all local within 15 minutes drive of my place. And so that makes the convenience factor right up there. But do let us know in the comment section below, do you think these are good prices for used graphics cards? And with that aside, we're gonna get back to the Tech Yes studio and get our hustle on. And now that we're back at the Tech Yes studio, we are going to piece out now 4 builds almost immediately, where we've got this one here, X79. We're gonna couple that with a 1660 Super, a Snowman cooler. And also the Snowman coolers nowadays, they're not coming with the X79 brackets, but when I bought them back in the day, I managed to keep some of these X79 brackets. So sometimes, especially if you're dealing with a lot of PC parts, sometimes it's good to keep those spares because they can come in handy at a later date. Then we got for this a 120 gigabyte SSD, 2 terabyte hard drive, and then we're gonna be using a RGB $60 case for this build, and hopefully in total we'll get around 800 Aussie for it. So minus 300 for the GPU, minus 70, 20. Yeah, in my head, I'm making profit still, but I'm gonna be doing these at pretty competitive prices here locally. And that's one of the things when I go through this stuff, now that a lot of this stuff has been sitting on my shelves for a while, I know how much I pay for the stuff in terms of a maximum threshold, and that's why I always stick to discipline and always recommend, if you guys are buying and selling anything, not just PC parts, but anything really, always stick to that discipline, because if you're holding on to too much and you manage to get a heap of good deals at one stage, you're always going to not be losing money in the process. And I think that's the most important thing for me here, is that I've stuck to my discipline. I know how much I'm prepared to pay maximum for certain PC parts, and that's going to actually help me now in terms of, now that I got to get ready to go to Japan, I want to just move a lot of stuff. And so this is a Tech Yes fire sale. But let's get the first PC built up, then on to the 3rd, then on to the 4th.
You've been there from the start, inside my car.
So our first build is complete. However, this one took a little bit longer than usual because initially we couldn't get the quad channel memory to work. And then I also noticed when I tried to put the 1660 Super in, it just wouldn't give out a signal. And so that's usually, especially around this era X79, it's usually a really early BIOS that's just not properly configured for compatibility with various parts. So I went to update the BIOS, and within the BIOS there was more problems where you couldn't actually update the BIOS because Gigabyte's update utility on this motherboard with the early BIOS revision just didn't work properly. So then we had to make a USB bootable, and then that fixed the job. And after that, the graphics card and the quad channel memory works perfectly. Our next PC now is going to be what I call the main lead generator. This one is going to come in with, I think, the best aesthetics. And then we're also then from that going to put up a pretty juicy PC. So RTX 3050, i7, 4770 or 4790. I've got to check what's inside this motherboard. It's going to be liquid cooled. It's going to have a SSD hard drive, and we're going to add in these 3 Thermaltake ring fans that actually got given to me because there was a faulty commander. So the commander apparently doesn't work with the USB software, just doesn't connect properly, it's faulty. But apparently the fans still power up, they still look fine. So it's just going to be essentially static RGB, but that's not going to be a problem because we're just going to be making this PC just look good. And then from that, if we get a lot of interest, it sells well, then we can use that to say, hey, we've got this PC that's a little bit cheaper. Would you be interested in it? So let's start building the lead generator.
You've been there from the start.
So here we are now, our lead PC is all finished. Everything is running pretty smoothly except these 2 fans. They are getting really loud, so I'm probably going to go on the BIOS and tune them both down a little bit. Other than that, the Thermaltake fans are running absolutely fine, and we have a build we can finally put up and start generating some leads. So we're actually going to list this before we build the next PC. And now our next build is the GTX 1070 Ti, but you may also notice this case right here is actually a PC that I built up for my mom years and years ago. And because I recently bought her a all-in-one touchscreen PC in the used parts hunt, she just said, look, copy the files over and you can just use this PC. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, it's time to use this PC and utilize it with a 1070 Ti. So this build all up is going to owe me 300 because it replaced the all-in-one, and then it's also going to owe me 250. So 550 in total is what this build owes me, and that's with a 1070 Ti and an i7. So all we got to do is get cleaning up, and this one could be a decent, tidy profit. So we've got a bit of a problem here, and that is this PC was initially having a little bit of boot problems. And so what I did was I unplugged all the USB ports, and that kind of fixed it. But now in Windows, the keyboard would cut out, the mouse would cut out, and I thought, oh, okay, is the motherboard on its way out? But Then I tried an individual USB card add-on with power directly from the power supply, and that's giving out the same symptoms where the keyboard just isn't lighting up, it's cutting in and out. So this basically means that the power supply is on its way out. So we're gonna have to change the power supply in this build. Keyboard is lighting up absolutely fine. Everything is working perfectly. We can do the spam test with the keyboard just to make sure. And I mean, we're copying files at the moment. So this is working really well. It was the power supply, and a faulty power supply is actually a really rare thing. So I'm guessing that's why my mom was like, yo, Brian, I want a new PC. I want you to get me something. Little did she tell me that she was gonna dump some problems my way, but that's fine. We've fixed this one. We're gonna finish up this PC now, and then we're on to the next. And just when you thought there was no more problems, we did a quick stress test and the GPU is going up to over 90 degrees almost instantly. I'm glad this thing still works, to be honest. So what we're gonna do right now is change the thermal paste around on this GPU. Desperately needs a thermal paste change. Usually temperatures going that high that quickly is, I mean, gaming on it for long periods of time, sure, but usually that's a crypto 24/7 job. So I hope I didn't buy this off a crypto miner. So what we can see here is there's actually no thermal paste covering the middle of the GPU die, which is extremely bizarre. But regardless of that, we're gonna fix this real quick.
Breaking me down, but my heart is broken enough to know that they never wanna fix it. I've given enough to let our worlds collide. I'm giving it up to heal the world inside and be the first one to show me.
And now we are on the final PC to build out here. This is going to be, originally it was going to be X79, the same as the one that we had before, same motherboard and everything, except I think the motherboard that we had before, I fixed that in a dumpster dive where it got given to me that the PCI bracket was all munted up. This one here, I paid money for this one, and it already had an i7-3820. So we're gonna put that aside because we have a brand new case here that I didn't even know where this came from, but it's already got a 400 watt Cougar power supply in it, which is gonna be perfect for a 1063 gig build. And then we're just gonna use this MSI board with mismatched memory and an i7 4770. So this should turn out okay. Same deal as last time as well, 120 gigabyte SSD and a 1 terabyte hard drive. It's time to play for the finale. Hopefully we don't run into any problems like those last 3 PCs. And our final PC is now complete, kind of. I've still got to add some RGB to the front of the case here. But I'm going to do that in the morning because we came into yet another problem with this PC. And that was to do with the graphics card and also one of the RAM sticks. So we've changed the RAM stick over. We have also cleaned out the back ports of this graphics card with WD-40, because initially what would happen is it would install and show a signal before the drivers, but then after you install the drivers, it would give a black screen. So I was actually quite concerned when that happened. But then I had a look at the ports at the back. I saw they're a little bit rusty and I thought, okay, we'll give this a go. And that sure enough fixed it. I mean, whether the seller knew about that and tried to do a hose job is a different story. But in the end, the result is at least that the card's working, the PC is working. We've got 4 PCs that are finally working. And let's close this sucker off. So we've now completed 4 PCs, and what you guys saw here today was just me juggling problems, and this is what it's like with used PC parts. If you guys want to sort of get into this gig, you can get some extremely good deals, but a lot of the time those deals are going to be off the back of having to fix things that a lot of people aren't comfortable fixing. And in today's video, like we saw, 4 PCs, they all had their own individual unique problems. And I think the most bizarre was the power supply just on its way out, and then it made it look like it was the motherboard that was the problems. And so over time, especially over time, I've learned just through trial and error what to do and how to try these things, these quick things to try and fix these problems. And it ends up, in the end, I get a fully working product that finishes and runs the stress test absolutely fine. But it's still a bit of a hassle going through all the motions when you get into it and you want 4 PCs to work, and just you're planning for just 4 straight sets, smooth sailing, and every single step of the way you're just coming into a problem, coming into a problem, coming into a problem. And I guess that's just what it's like when you're building used PCs. But the good thing is today we had a success. We're going to flip these PCs now, keep moving, keep moving. I do still have mainly I've got a lot of motherboards still and CPUs and RAM, especially on the DDR3 side. So my plan is to move as much as that as possible before I go to Japan. So I am kind of selling out all my stuff here. I do want to kind of not just have a clean slate, which I will have in Japan, but when I come back to Australia, I want to have a clean slate as well. So, because paying all these prices and then say coming back even a few months later, the market can change so quickly. For instance, I'm even seeing now locally RTX 3050s are under MSRP at retailers. That's not even with eBay sales or anything like that. RTX 3060s are now down just a hair above 500 Aussie dollars. And so these graphics card prices are coming down. They're continuing to come down, and we haven't even seen the mass flood from miners yet. And so I'm kind of expecting by September, that's when we'll see a massive flood from the miners flooding their GPUs onto the market. And so you do have to be mindful of that. If that does happen, you'll see some extremely cheap GPUs. I've even heard of some people picking up locally here RTX 3060s for 400 Aussie dollars. So that's even below the US MSRP of 329. So it's starting to happen, and it's starting to happen very fast. So for me personally, I'm like, okay, well, I just want to move as much of this stuff as possible, and I'm being very competitive with my pricing. And even if I'm making $50, it doesn't matter. Bit of profit's a bit of profit, because you got to readjust, and you can then move into the new market and make some new profit. For instance, with that RTX 3060 PC, I got that in the deals hunt recently. I got that 3060. I also picked up the Ryzen parts and stuff like that. I made a pure $350 profit on that build. So that was just an easy flip going into the new market, getting the new deals. But anyway, guys, with today's video, I thought I'd just show you a different side of sort of behind the scenes, what goes on with Tech Yes City. I've actually got to move and get ready now to go to Japan, because it is 100% confirmed that I will be going. There was a lot of medical stuff I had to do, not just get the visa, but I then had to check out all this medical stuff and get that done. And so it was actually, I guess in hindsight, it's going to sound a bit weird, it was actually a good thing that I got COVID. So the irony is rich sometimes, and this time it's rich in my favor. So that's, sometimes you get unlucky with things, and sometimes you just get lucky with other things. So everything works out in the end, I guess. So it looks like Tech Yes is definitely heading to Japan, and that's why I'm sort of in a rush. We're going to be getting these deals. We're going to be picking things up. We're just going to be moving at 100 miles an hour. But hopefully as well, when we get to Japan, it's going to be a lot of used parts just waiting for me to snap up and see what kind of deals we can get. Anyhow, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, be sure to hit that like button. Also, let us know in the comment section below, what was your favorite piece of today's video? Love reading those thoughts and opinions. As always, just like this question of the day here, which comes from Jerka Hudek, and they ask, what do you use for cleaning the monitors? So when it comes to cleaning monitors, I use alcohol wipes, and then after that, I can use a microfiber cloth, something like that, to just dry off the alcohol straight away. So it's just basically clean it, and then straight away clean off all the moisture, and away you go. You'll have a very clean monitor after doing that. I generally don't use multi-purpose spray on monitors. One of the main reasons is that it just reacts with some of the chemicals I find on the screen. Like for instance, if some people have previously used alcohol to clean a monitor and then you use multi-purpose spray, it's just gonna be just like an absolute smudge fest. It does take a while to clean in that case. So that's why I always use just alcohol wipes on monitors. So that's why I stick to that. I don't use multi-purpose spray because you don't know the history of that monitor. And of course, if the monitor is new, then you're not going to need to clean it too. So anyhow, guys, hope that answers that question, and I will catch you in another tech video very soon. If you've stayed this far and you're enjoying that Tech Yes content, then you may wish to hit that sub button, ring that bell, and also if you want to hit the join button for as little as $1 a month, get behind the scenes access here at Tech Yes City to some behind the scenes vlogs. And with that aside, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out for now. Bye.
Like the sun needed stars, you make my